What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Monday. Gonna have a busy week. If we thought last week was crazy, I'm sure this week will be just as wild. As there's about 5 to 6 inches of snow on the ground here in Nashville, Tennessee, and more falling from the sky as we get this week kicked off. The Titans have coaching search candidate interviews completed, and we'll do more this week. We'll discuss key updates for this Titans coaching search to replace Mike Vrabel, and also the top candidates available for the Titans' next head coach. How does this last NFL weekend shake things up with the playoff games and the coaching timeline? Will more jobs become available after tonight's wild card weekend wraps up? And of course, we'll get into Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon, the two that are going to be going through this hiring process, before we wrap up this morning, Monday morning show with the age game. Zach, hope you had a good weekend. It's still super wild card weekend as one game gets moved from Sunday to today. So it's MLK Day. So a lot of people are off. So happy MLK Day. And then also the snow giving us 2 football games on this Monday. Zach, welcome in. What's going on?
Playoff football midday on a Monday. I will not complain whatsoever. Followed by the prime time, fire them cannons down there in Tampa, trying to upset essentially the favored Philadelphia Eagles without A.J. Brown. So storylines on top of storylines. I am disappointed that we didn't get to see the Buffalo blizzard yesterday, but looking at the videos, it may have been impossible to actually have played that game. But you want to see chaos sometimes, and I wanted to see that. But big game today, 2 big games today, and a big show on the horizon. We are broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So keep you locked in right there. We will tweet out link by link, segment by segment, our YouTube links to our Twitter account, our Twitter handle at A to Z Sports. Make sure you follow us there on Twitter at ATOZ Sports. Great way to get all of your news and updates throughout the coaching search that is going on for the Tennessee Titans. We've got live streams, and we will tweet out those links, as I said, throughout the morning and primetime live streaming shows. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, we appreciate that, and like this video. And if you've already done all of those, which we appreciate, make sure you hit that bell. Make sure you get the alerts. So when we go live, you're notified. It's really one click and boom, you're in on the action. So make sure your alerts, you subscribe and like this video. It helps the algorithm and helps the Titans community as we continue to grow that. Facebook, what's going on? Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing, as we say on this show. So share the show around. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. How that works is you guys share the show. So a lot to get to on this Monday morning, snowy Monday morning for a lot of places, including here in Nashville. So for everybody joining us in the comfort of their own home with a hot cup of cocoa and a blanket, let's go live. Let's get this party started.
Let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go for your new car buying process. The Bone and Joint Institute closed today, but that's okay, inclement weather, but boneandjointtn.org. They are the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans, get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer, and your equipment place to go to with 3 great locations across the mid-state, Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. They are online at KrebsKubota.com. So, Zach, a lot to get to. I don't know about you, but last week was the longest month I've had in a long time. It was crazy.
Last week was the longest month, or last week felt like a month?
Last week, yes, my joke was to iterate what you just said. Yes, it felt like a month because of all the different news. Vrabel fired, more coaches fired in the NFL, Bill Belichick and the Patriots parting ways. Nick Saban retires. Jim Harbaugh apparently is going to interview with the Chargers after winning a national championship game. The fact that the Jags lost to the Titans just 8 days ago feels like fake. That feels like that was a long time ago with all of that. But there has been news on news on news. And the Titans last week interviewed with 9 different candidates to replace Mike Vrabel as the Titans head coach. So Zach, how did you take in last week? Just because you were on the show for a couple of days, and then, Jack and I got to kind of recap all the news that came out about the Vrabel and Amy Adams Strunk interpersonal issues from The Athletic, and Buck Rising talked about that later in the week as well. So how did you wrap up last week with your mindset on where the Titans were as a franchise?
Well, with the big names, I feel like it's a shifting era of football, right? Bill Belichick's not going to coach for the next, 2 decades anymore. This is going to be another team. It's going to be unique. And, Nick Saban not being on the sidelines for Alabama, Pete Carroll not being on the sidelines for the Seahawks. That is an era of football. And I kind of look at it as in quarterback era. You remember we had Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. That was an era. And I feel like we're starting to get out with coaches that we really have to kind of relish. I remember when Brett Favre played his last game, and Brett Favre was unbelievable as a quarterback. He was unique, gunslinger. And I was like, man, you really got to soak up the way he plays and the way Peyton Manning plays and Tom Brady. The way that these guys coach is very unique. And then on top of it, you've got coaching searches going on. When one coach gets fired, another coach has to get hired. That's them the rules. And so for A to Z Sports, we had obviously a big week with our media company. And we did, I felt like, a great job across the board with all of our coverage around the league as we've expanded. But yeah, it was a very long week last week. And then it became a little bit more clear when it comes to the Titans that this is a process. I knew that, and that was one of the reasons, maybe justifiably moving on from Mike Vrabel, and that's kind of what Amy said in her recorded video. But, I am pretty, I don't want to say impressed, but at least the teams are going with the times and they're doing virtual interviews, right? Taking advantage. We do a lot of virtual interviews with our company. We've got employees all across the country because we work virtually. And so they're starting to do that to get to know candidates, just like I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah.
Just like we talk to our employees. So I liked that, to get ahead and to try to talk and build relationships in the new era of how we communicate.
And A to Z has employees in 4 different countries, not just across the country, but across the world, in different time zones and continents. But Zach, so let's get to the housekeeping notes on where this Titans head coaching search is, right? Because you mentioned, I guess, virtual interviews is the first step. And so last week, the Tennessee Titans completed virtual interviews with their first 4 candidates. Those candidates are Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald, Mike Kafka, the Giants offensive coordinator, Antonio Pierce, the Raiders interim head coach, and then Brian Callahan, the Bengals offensive coordinator. So those were the first interviews completed virtually, because none of those 4 teams had a wild card football game this weekend. So that's the Ravens had the bye week. So that's where you had the chance to get in the only playoff coach of this group of 4 in Macdonald over the weekend, because he had that bye week. And then Kafka, Pierce, and Callahan, their seasons are already complete. So here's how the timeline works, right? So starting tomorrow, there is a short window where the Tennessee Titans can virtually interview coaches who won or lost last week on the wild card weekend. So they will have 5 coaching interviews virtually this week based off of the requests from last week. Aaron Glenn, the Lions D coordinator, Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. I saw somebody say, can the Titans revoke that request? Maybe. Cowboys defensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator, and Brian Johnson, the Eagles offensive coordinator. Now they'll have to wait an extra day this week to get to Brian Johnson because the Eagles don't play until tonight in the Super Wild Card weekend. So that's that timeline. So once they get through the virtual interviews this week, they can't have in-person interviews, Zach, until January 22nd. And so they can't have second interviews, which are in person, until January 29th. And in order to meet all the Rooney Rule requests and the Rooney Rule requirements, the Tennessee Titans and every other team with an opening for a coach, for a head coach, you have to have 2 outside minority candidates have multiple in-person interviews to check the Rooney Rule box. So there's a lot of boxes that need to be checked and a long timeline. So if you can't have in-person interviews until next Monday, the 22nd, and then second round of interviews, January 29th, you got to, this Titans are going to have a head coach until the month of February, right? It's going to take another couple of weeks at least for the Tennessee Titans, probably 3 full weeks for the Titans to name a new head coach to replace Mike Vrabel. So buckle up.
Well, and I think that's why it was even more justified that they didn't want to deal with trying to trade Mike Vrabel and that they just wanted to, hey, easy separation. We've got to get going because the NFL has forced owners to go through a very extensive process. I mean, it's not just, hey, we found our guy, you can hire him anymore. It used to be that was the case. Now you have to check the boxes, as you said, and that takes time. That takes preparation, right? That takes so many different things. And so I understand it now looking at it even more, but man, you got to go through a lot. And now they're in that process. Now, I don't think that's necessarily completely a bad thing. This is a big job for a big organization with a lot of impact within their city. And there's a lot of head coaching vacancies open, and there is every year. And so we're just in that circuit, whether it's the Panthers, the Commanders, the Chargers, the Titans. I mean, there's plenty of jobs open. And really the Patriots were the only one that had that provision with Gerard Mayo to just say, okay, we already had that done. And that is some intelligence from Robert Kraft saying, we know the process. And if we get to that point, we kind of want to avoid the process. And I'm sure you're going to see that more and more with offensive and defensive coordinators within their contract with the ability to just fit right in because the NFL has made things more time consuming.
Yeah, and Titans Kyle asked that question. Does the Rooney Rule not matter if you have a written agreement to have someone succeed your current head coach? It's not just the Rooney Rule. It's all of the other protocol that teams have to follow in order to have the next head coach be hired. Yes, it's the fact that it was written in the contract, and I don't think really anybody knew that. So that's another reason why the Titans could not have traded Mike Vrabel to the Patriots, because they were already going to go with Gerard Mayo to begin with. And so it's not like college, right? Where Nick Saban retires on a Wednesday afternoon, and then all of a sudden they hire Kalen DeBoer from Washington 48 hours later. And in between, apparently Dan Lanning and Mike Norvell and Steve Sarkisian all get raises, right? So it's you have to go through this few weeks process of virtual interviews of teams in the playoffs, then first in-person interview, second in-person interview, check all the minority boxes with the Rooney Rule. And somebody also followed up, what does the Rooney Rule necessarily mean? Is it just the skin color thing? It is a person of color or a woman. And so for whatever job that the NFL is trying to fill, an NFL team is trying to fill, the Rooney Rule applies to a person of color or a woman to be interviewed for that opening in order for more diversity to get to happen and to grow within the NFL's top jobs when it comes to executives in the front office or coaching positions on the field. So, Zach, with that being said, let's kind of reset here before we get into our conversation and our topic to get you guys more involved. Virtual interviews complete with these 4 candidates: Mike McDonald of the Ravens, Mike Kafka of the Giants, Antonio Pierce of the Raiders, and Brian Callahan of the Bengals. And interviews that will happen virtually this week in the window between wild card and divisional round playoff games. Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, both coordinators from the Lions, Dan Quinn of the Cowboys, Bobby Slowick of the Texans, and Brian Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Zach, we're going to get to this question. And that's the main, housekeeping updates from this situation to this point on Monday, January 15th. But now let's ask about the people doing the interviewing. It's Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon. What is your confidence level in Amy Adams Strunk, controlling owner, and general manager Rand Carthon on getting this Titans coach hire correct? We do confidence levels on a 1 through 10 basis. We want your confidence level 1 through 10 on Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon to get this hire right. But first, going to tell you guys about Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state, Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. KrebsKubota.com is a website, and there's a bunch of snow coming down from the sky. There's a bunch of snow all over it, and maybe you still need to get stuff done. Krebs Kubota has the type of equipment to prepare you for all types of weather, all types of projects, in situations outside around your home or your property or your business. Krebs Kubota can take care of you. They are an elite Kubota dealer, which means they have the best equipment in the industry with the Kubota line. They've got the best warranties in the industry with the Kubota line as well. And also 3 locations across the mid-state to make it convenient for you with the best customer service in the equipment industry. That's Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Family owned and operated for over 18 years. Krebs Kubota can make it happen for you online at KrebsKubota.com.
A to Z Sports, we are powered by BetMGM. Tough weekend for me. The Cowboys didn't help me out this weekend, and I don't think they helped a lot of people out while they were making bets. Upset City, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show. Bonus code ATOZ Sports. You got 2 games today. Bills Steelers. I was just looking. I was like, they played in a blizzard, or they didn't play in a blizzard yesterday. Well, the snow still has not melted in Buffalo. It's not like they had a heat wave come through. So there is going to be a ton of snow all around and in that stadium. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports within your BetMGM app. If you're a new user, make sure that code is right there to get you locked. They are the king of the sports book. Download the BetMGM app today. You've got Steelers, Bills, and then you have Bucks, Eagles in prime time tonight to close out Super Wildcard Weekend. Download the BetMGM app today.
All right, Zach. So let's get to our question here. We're asking, what is your confidence level in Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon to get this hire correct on a 1 through 10 confidence level? So I'll send you to the chat. What are the people saying this morning?
Well, Chaz comes in here hot. Our first comment says 10. He really believes in Carthon and Amy to make the right decision. Curtis says 7, 7.5 from Randall, 8 from Andre. Brandon says 8.5, 8.887 from Steven, 7.77 from Top Tier. Scott goes 3. Roz says 8. Demetrius just lists what he believes. And we'll probably get to that a little bit later on in the week as we navigate these hires, the interviews that the Titans are doing and have already done to go to next level. John says 8. Orlando goes 6.5. Big Ten Jeff with a 6. Michael Schneider with a 9. Jason 7.5. 8 from John. 7 from Caleb. 9.5. So some really high numbers. And then Ed, of course, goes 0 after I say that. But 8.88 from NM. Luman not high with 0.003. Guy says 3. Ashley goes 7. Brandon 6. Jacqueline 10. Ray and Tammy, whether it's Ray or Tammy, they have both decided 6. 8 from Titans. Kyle. Chris goes 5. 8. So we're kind of a little bit all over the place, but in the sense of the stability of, I would say the average is right agreeing with Justin, is right about a 7. Because you got some low numbers and you got some high numbers. And Demetrius is like 7, let Rand cook. They're going to get an opportunity to go through the process. Amy hired Rand Carthon for a reason. This is one of those reasons to help elevate and maturate their franchise to a Super Bowl winning type franchise. and it starts with the head coach, and now it starts with interviewing and selecting the right head coach. So, Austin, where are you in confidence level with this Titans brass making a very, very impactful decision for the next several years?
Yeah, and so I'm looking at a couple comments. I see Randall says Amy has never made a bad hire, and Titans Kyle says Amy hired the right guy the last time. And I made this point last week that Amy really hasn't missed with a hire she's made or a big decision that she's made thus far in about 8.5, 9 years.
I think you have to justify but I want to stop you there for a second.
Okay, that's
because
fine.
I think conceptually for a period of time, but the right hire is hiring Bill Belichick and having him extend, right? The right hire is longevity. The right hire is not having John Robinson make all of the bad decisions that were made. The right hire doesn't have the stubbornness that Mike Vrabel had that ultimately got him fired. Like,
and
I think she has not missed. They've also, her hires have made some pretty bad decisions to get to the point.
Yeah. All right. So
Mike Mularkey being stubborn and refusing not to do something. I mean,
but like, let's
you say
like,
that, but also
like,
you got to also understand the ending of those said hires.
But, of course, everybody gets hired to get fired in the NFL. That is the industry. You get hired to get fired. Sure, Bill Belichick is the complete outlier of 24 years with an organization. And honestly,
I mean, outside of Carroll and Mike Tomlin,
Zach,
I mean, there are other head coaches.
I'll let you finish. Come on.
Mike McCarthy. Well, you're saying things that are wrong.
Mike McCarthy.
I'm giving you examples of
you get hired to get
tenured coaches.
Yes, and of the coaches that were hired in the same cycle of 2018 that Mike Vrabel was in, he outlasted everybody else in that same coaching cycle by multiple seasons. And so just because John Robinson got fired and deserved to get fired, just because Mike Vrabel got fired, and you can argue if you still think he deserved to get fired or not, I think it was the right move. Just because Mike Mularkey got fired after winning a playoff game doesn't mean it was the wrong hire for the situation. Like, let's not forget, like, the people, Anthony, J-Rob, miss. Jason, J-Rob, big mistake. If you think John Robinson was a big mistake of a hire or a miss of a hire, then you have amnesia. And I'm not talking about our guy that watches on YouTube, amnesia of what happened with previous GMs, plural, and previous coaches, and one in particular, Ken Wisenhunt, before that hire. So just because John Robinson went off a cliff and deserved to lose his job 13 months ago doesn't mean he was a miss of a hire or a bad hire.
Well, you could say mismanagement by Amy Adams Strunk as giving John Robinson these titles and then all of a sudden firing him, right? Giving him the power. And then what happened to that? So there's some mismanagement.
Sure. And there is such a thing of being hired or progressing through a career where you get over your skis, right? Where you get hired above your ability. And John Robinson becoming vice president of football for the Tennessee Titans organization, maybe that was a little too much. But to the point,
Amy did that.
And to the point that he got there, nobody was out here saying, oh, John doesn't deserve that promotion. John doesn't deserve that title, because everything that he had done up to that point had produced winning season, playoffs, division title, hiring Mike Vrabel after moving on from Mularkey that J-Rob was a part of too, finding a backup quarterback, an insurance plan for Marcus Mariota that didn't work too, and Ryan Tannehill. Like, there are so many things that are good that happened from 2016 up to the AFC Championship game that were great from John Robinson and great from Mike Vrabel and Amy Adams Strunk, that yes, it all went to hell in 2020 when everything else around the country kind of did too. And I'm not using that as an excuse, but that's the timeline of John Robinson had two eras, pre-COVID and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, he was damn near perfect from a GM standard. Post-COVID, it was as bad as it gets, and he got fired not 3 full years into that second era. But, like, let's not say that he was a bad hire, because that's idiotic. Because this organization that we're talking about was 5-27 before they hired John Robinson. Then they went winning seasons for the entire time that he held that title, even though he was fired. winning records the entire time, season after season for 6+ years. It went bad, but that doesn't mean it was a bad hire.
The impact of a general manager at the end of his tenure. What you said is not incorrect. He did have winning seasons when he was here, but the decisions that a general manager makes have impacts for years to come. And Austin, I don't know if you'd agree with this or not, but don't you think that the reason why the Titans are in the situation they currently are is because of one John Robinson?
Yes, but Amy Adams Strunk was also
singular decisions,
okay. All right.
His drafts, like he good and bad, we know that, but his bad have now turned out to be detrimental. I mean, if you think about it, detrimental to the franchise. But I guess the reason why I pushed back a little bit is when you sit there and you're like, Amy never misses. She don't miss. She hits everything. It just is not truly indicative of what those hires ended up being.
So, but then guess what?
But that's what I'm saying. You are coming across as she don't miss. She's the Steph Curry of the NFL, and that's not necessarily the case.
But Zach, and here's my point, because Chaz is correct. The Titans improved after each hire. That is true. And Amy she also gets credit for the people she has decided to fire.
I don't disagree with that.
I'm still talking. And Amy has made tough decisions to fire Mularkey after he won a playoff game, made decisions to fire John Robinson 8 months after she gave him an extension before it truly went to hell, and ate that money. She ate the money after the extension, and then she did it again, and she fired Mike Vrabel and ate more money because he got an extension too with John Robinson. So you get credit for making the decisions, hiring and firing, that are right for the franchise.
You also get criticized for those decisions afterwards and the hires and their decisions that you made. So my point is, again, I don't think you're completely off basis, but you can't just say she don't miss. And I think that's how you, over the last week or so, talk about Amy, is she don't miss. And if you actually look at it a little bit,
I said
you've said that multiple times. For what Amy does, I think you can sit there and say she made the correct hires for the time that they were being made, but I just don't categorize them as she don't miss.
Every step along the way has been a movement forward in progression for the franchise.
That's fine. Now, you can say things like that. You just can't say she doesn't miss.
But again, like Rand Carthon and now the Mike Vrabel decision are the two big decisions that we don't have results on. She has not missed on one of those big decisions, hiring or firing. She has made the correct decision up until the hiring of Rand Carthon. And because of the blurriness of what this last year was between Rand and Vrabel, we truly don't know what to think about Rand yet. And so we're gonna answer the question. We're gonna answer the question on confidence level on this. But first, Zach, tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com is where to go. You talk about they don't miss. They don't miss. They haven't missed for me over the last 2 years. That is the actual case because I've gotten better coverage at a better rate than my previous plan before. They help me out consistently. They help me and my family out. Health, dental, and vision, 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. If you are in the state of Tennessee, I highly recommend you check out Farm Bureau Health Plans of Tennessee. That's FBHP.com/A to Z. They've been in business over 75 years. They've got different agents all across the state. You get a quote after you take the health assessment about 24 to 48 hours later, and then you make the decision. It truly is up to you. You are in control, and you finally make the decision on if this health plan is the best thing for you. It was the best thing for me and my family. Check it out. That's FBHP.com/A to Z, health, dental, and vision all across the state of Tennessee.
All right, with BetMGM, you can always go big with your first bet offer. That's with code ATOZ Sports. But if you don't want to go big, that's fine. We got a great offer for you. Right now, the King of Sportsbooks is offering new customers a chance to score $158 in bonus bets instantly. That's instantly when you download the BetMGM app and sign up using our bonus code ATOZ200. That's ATOZ200. You place a $5 moneyline wager on the big game or any other playoff games, and you get $158 in bonus bets instantly. I don't care what that $5 moneyline wager is. If it wins, if it loses, you get $158 in bonus bets instantly when you place that $5 moneyline wager. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. Offer subject to qualification and other requirements. Rewards issued a number of non-eligible bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem game support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. So we got distracted there, Zach. You asked me what my confidence level is in Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon to hire the correct head coach next for the Titans. We got off into the Amy Adams Strunk track record on making big decisions, right or wrong, if she's missed or if she's not. But my confidence level in these two, you said the average was probably around a 7 out of 10 for the audience. It's pretty high. My confidence is a little lower. I'm at a 6.
Well, she don't miss. I thought you'd be a 10. She don't miss.
She has not missed, which is past tense. She has not missed yet. That is the statement. She has not missed yet. Up until the Vrabel firing and the Rand Carthon hiring, like I said 2 minutes ago, she has not missed yet. We'll find out. But my confidence level is a 6 out of 10. I'm a little lower than.
Why? But that's not what
Shut
you've
up,
been
dude.
saying.
I'm trying to give you the answer, but you keep interjecting. You really want to keep doing this?
Well, because I'm curious. That has been the thing that you have.
Shut your
that's
mouth.
what you've been saying for a week.
All right, Mr. Curious. All right, what's your confidence level since you want to keep talking?
No, but why is it 6 when you've been so high on what you've been saying for a week?
All right. It is at a 6 because I don't know what Rand Carthon's ability is to do something for the first time. This is his first head coaching hiring. He said it himself in his press conference last week. He has never done this. He's going to have to lean on his experience as a kid growing up and a coach, had with his dad being a coach and growing up throughout the ranks of being a front office scout, personnel, assistant GM, all the way up to where he's at now. He's never done this before, but he's got 2 other assistant GMs underneath him that can help him through the process, and Amy Adams Strunk. I honestly don't know what they're going to do. And the fact that they've put out 9 interview requests is solid. That's a lot of different candidates to pick from. But it's basically split between offense and defense down the middle, 5 and 4, 4 and 5 there. I'm curious about Rand Carthon because I don't know anything about Rand Carthon because it's been 1 year and 1 year of turmoil and confusion on who's done what and who's gets credit for this signing and this draft pick and that decision or what. A lot of it sounds like Mike Vrabel had enough control this past year to put himself in a bad spot. He had enough control to make decisions that could get him fired, whether it's the signing of Andre Dillard or other roster decisions that Mike Vrabel chose to make. And so I don't know truly what Rand Carthon is as a football mind. I've also heard that Mike Vrabel didn't necessarily believe in the ability of Rand Carthon and his 2 assistant GMs from a football perspective. So if Mike Vrabel's doubting those 3 people and their triumvirate of GMs, then I trust Mike Vrabel's football opinion on most things. I'm up in the air. I don't know what to think about Rand because we don't know what is actually his decision or not his decision from the last 12 months.
What about the influence of Amy, though? That's where I'm confused by your number based on what you have said over the last 8 days. That's why I pushed back. It didn't make sense. You said one thing and then your number, I feel like you went all on Rand, but you were hyping Amy up for 7 days and now you're at a 6. I think that's where I'm disconnected.
I'm still over the fence of I'm confident in them. I'm just not that high over the fence. I'm not confident. I'm not below 5. I'm at 6. And Amy, to her credit, also allows her football people to make football decisions until she has to step in and make the ultimate decision to fire somebody. And so Amy, I think, will, to a certain extent, let Rand go through the process of interviewing people. She'll be involved, but I think she will have to allow Rand Carthon to be level with her on making the decision of who the next head coach is. And so Amy, I'm at a 6 because I don't know how they're truly going to operate together. I feel confident that they can't miss on this. They can't. You're firing Mike Vrabel to hire the same Mike Vrabel, but Antonio Pierce. That can't happen. Or Aaron Glenn. That can't happen. So I'm just at a 6. I'm not trying to get too overly optimistic or confident in this. I'm just saying I'm at a 6. I believe that they're going to get a good coach because they have a good situation, but I'm just going to wait and see. I'm not going to get too over excited, I guess.
So when it comes to situation, I agree that they've got a young quarterback that has at least they have tape on him, right? So the candidates have seen him, right? And that, I think that is very valuable. So every coach wants to come into a situation where maybe they want to pick their own players, right? I mean, I think that just makes sense. Hey, I want to build this my way. I want to select the players. I want to work with the general manager. I'm not going to say the word collaborate because that's exhausting. But I'm sure we'll hear that whenever this head coach is hired. So I think they have some things to sell. I also think that you also have to look at the competition around the league. And we'll talk about this later on in the week. But, who are you going up against? You got the Seattle Seahawks, you got the Commanders, you got the Falcons, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Panthers. I mean, these are maybe the Cowboys, who knows? Like, now you got competition on who out of all the candidates you're talking to, if the Cowboys come into the mix, do they steal one of your, opportunity to hire a guy that you want? Or does Seattle do that? I don't know. We'll kind of lay that out as it goes. I think here's my fear. And that's why I'm at a 4.5. I'm a little bit less because I don't think, and I will say this, I don't think I categorize as Amy Adams Strunk, don't miss, or whatever we want to say it. But I think that when you hire somebody, really the impact is how you manage them afterwards. And I think that Amy, to her credit, she's moved off of when she's maybe needed to move off. But there's also management not to be able to do that. She let John Robinson kind of do whatever the hell he wanted for a period of time. And that was make some pretty bad decisions. Not doing due diligence on Isaiah Wilson, drafting Caleb Farley that had back surgery, trading away A.J. Brown. I think then after that happened, that's kind of when Mike Vrabel, she relied on him more than ever. And that kind of, I feel like, came back and bit their relationship together, and they moved on. Here's my other worry. They are interviewing people because they're forced to interview people. And I think that there are good things of what the Rooney Rule tries to accomplish. I think we can all agree on that. And then I also think that sometimes probably it makes you go through the emotions. I do have a fear in the back of my head is that they could hire a defensive coordinator, a defensive-minded coach. And that's going to piss me off to all end. Same. And I will not let them – I'm all gas, no brakes on criticism. And and I will go ahead and state this on Monday. Hold me to my words. I hold you to the words, and we hold the chat accountable. But damn it, if they hire a defensive-minded head coach, he better win a Super Bowl in 4 years, or at least make it to a Super Bowl. I'll let off the pedal at least that much. But you best not miss if you're going to hire Antonio Pierce or Mike McDaniel, or McDonald, excuse me, the DC of the Ravens. If that is truly your guy, he better be the best MFer on this planet. And that's the criticism. And so I think I have an inkling of fear that may happen. And so that's why I'm at a 4.5 and not at a 6 or not at a 7 or not at an 8. And really the key is it's managing your employees after you get them in here. A resume is a resume. Results are results. But as results happen, That's the accountability. I think
Sure.
that truly is the test of a good business and good
But I
ownership
also,
and good
yeah.
leadership.
So I had the same rant Thursday with Jack and I about, because at that point they had 7 interview requests. 4 of them were defensive guys, 3 of them offense. And I had same thing, co-sign that. They cannot hire a defensive minded coach in this situation. You would just be doing the same damn thing you've been doing the last 6 years, which has some good, but it's got a rotating door of offensive coordinators that we've been through over and over and over and over again. So I think, and somebody did say, Herschel said this, they fired him for his lack of offensive mind and power trip, not for his defensive mind. And so, yeah, they did not Vrabel because he's a defensive minded head coach. They fired him because of his ability or inability to cooperate and collaborate over the last year. And so I also think on your comment about the John Robinson unraveling or crumbling, like we have to remember the timeline of things, that they were still winning a lot until they weren't. And it fell off a cliff fast, right?
That's when management is so important.
And they did it. And that's where I think you're not giving her as much credit as I think I am, because John Robinson was fired 11 months after they got the 1 seed in the AFC. The final straw was the A.J. Brown trade. We all know that. And so the fact that they were winning, right? It was playoffs, won the division and the 1 seed. Then you trade away A.J. Brown, and then it was 11-ish, 12 games into that following season, you're out. I think it was 7-5 maybe was the record when John Robinson got fired, around there, and he was out. So that's acting fairly quickly, because I saw Trey earlier said, well, they could have fired Vrabel a year ago. And that was in the report from Diana Rossini and Joe Rexrow of The Athletic of, yeah, they considered it of a clean slate. But like, think about the logic in that time frame if they would have fired Mike Vrabel after the 2022 season. You're firing a coach who is 1 year removed from coach of the year because the roster was bad, and you fired the GM before that. So I think the fact that she has made fairly quick decisions when the people in management leadership roles have not lived up to her standard. So I think that's something
easy. It's easy to fire people when they don't live up to the standard. The standard is the result. Everybody knows the standard. And so, but look,
Zach,
even you criticize John Robinson for draft. No. Hey, don't make me say what you said to me. What I'm saying is, we all criticize John Robinson for drafting players that were not ready to play. He was drafting guys while winning. He got to a level. He wasn't winning championships. He wasn't winning Super Bowls. He wasn't winning AFC championships. He was losing, and he was drafting guys that weren't going to immediately help their team get over the hump with his first round draft picks. And yes, we all agree that A.J. Brown was the straw. But these are management things that I think Amy needs to criticize, right? We need to criticize Amy, and she needs to criticize those in real time. It's not about the result. We all knew John Robinson needed to be fired. I think you could justifiably, we talked about Mike Vrabel. They outlined the things of why he was fired. I just think that while things go on and things happen, that's when you have to assess them, not after the dust is settled and you're rebuilding. And that's kind of where they are now. But it is fallen.
Yeah, but it's like, this isn't something that has real-time results. Like, Isaiah Wilson was a god-awful draft pick, right? We knew that in real time throughout that season, but they were also winning the division.
Predictable things. With Caleb Farley and Isaiah Wilson, those are pretty predictable.
Yeah.
Hindsight's hindsight, but you drafted a guy that had back surgery and hadn't played much football, and then you don't do your due diligence on Isaiah Wilson.
Right.
That guy was out of the league quicker than you could throw a dollar bill at a stripper. I
call him the worst draft pick of all time. like the worst draft pick of all time.
And John Robinson made that.
I understand that, but he made that draft pick and he made the Caleb Farley draft pick simultaneous to division champs, and the 1 seed, right? So like you have to
but that's where I believe Amy has got to come in here and say, what are we doing? Like those, and I look, have your employees work, right? I am with that. I think that needs to happen. You don't need to be a control freak like Dan Snyder and some of the others that we've seen. Jerry Jones, look at where they are today, right? But you also have to realize what's going on in real time and adapt so you don't have to fire your general manager in the middle of the season. You don't have to fire your head coach when it has gotten out of hand. I just think that's the criticism that I'm bringing.
For sure. But the Caleb Farley thing is a lot of unfortunate events. That's truly what Caleb Farley's young life has been.
Pretty recognizable.
Yeah, I understand. But like tearing his ACL had nothing to do with his back. Like tearing his ACL as a rookie had nothing to do with his back injury. It was just crappy luck that Caleb Farley has continued to have. So another thing I want to talk about too is you said that you have to be able to identify or it's easy to move on when the standard has not been met. Is that kind of what you said a few minutes ago? I believe you said the best case scenario though last week on Tuesday, hours before he was fired, you said the best case scenario was to keep him, right?
Yeah, because I didn't think, look, hindsight's 2020 of what has occurred.
Well, yeah, but you just said it's easy to fire somebody. It's an easy decision when the standard's not met, but you would have kept.
Look at what, well, it's easy because look at the games that they lost, right? Like, look at the players
your
they
best
had.
Case scenario was to keep the guy so in your opinion, you would have kept Mike Vrabel, but then you said it's easy for
one more year.
Amy.
I believe that he earned another year.
But then you don't give Amy credit for making that decision because it was an easy decision to make when the standard wasn't set. That's both sides.
No, wrong. Mike Vrabel, it was a pretty close decision. You don't make that decision. Like Amy even said this. They weren't set on firing Mike Vrabel. Probably what I know, actually, I do know this. They had not decided to fire Mike Vrabel, but 48 hours prior, even less than that. So it's not like it was a drawn out, easy decision of it's pretty easy to fire Frank Reich, right? That was pretty obvious. So that's why I say it was close. I'm not sitting here dying on the hill of why the hell did they fire Mike Vrabel? I did think that a decision should have been made and they could have gone with it to give him one more year. They didn't. Right, that's fine.
So you said you would have given Vrabel one more year?
Yes.
What was your answer Wednesday when we asked right or wrong decision? Are you flip-flopping again? Because you answered right. You answered right.
Based on what we found out.
Okay. That's three different questions and three different conversations that don't line up.
Look at the information that we found out when that question was asked. You're sitting here saying, going back to show, we knew that they had a meeting.
Okay.
We knew they had a meeting, and we knew that Amy took away responsibility for Mike Vrabel. Right.
So
that's
let me just
why
recap.
It was the right decision.
Let me
I
recap.
knew that information, and then we answered the question. It was like I knew
but
more
you just
information
said that
that was answered.
You just said today that you still would have given Vrabel one more year. You just said that.
No, you asked me what my answer was,
and you said I still would have given one more year.
No, hindsight is hindsight. You asked me what I said in the previous show. I said in the previous show I would have given him one more year. When the question was asked on this show, was it the right or wrong decision? It was the right decision based on the information that we knew that they went into a room, had a conversation where Amy was taking power away from Mike Vrabel. It wasn't going to work. So, let's get the devil is in the details. Let's talk about the details of this.
One more question. So, does Amy Adams Strunk deserve credit for making the move when the standard wasn't met?
For this particular,
does she get credit for firing Vrabel when the standard wasn't met?
I have not given her. I have not given her zero credit. I just think that we need to take a look at the management along the way. That was my point. When this whole started with you saying that she doesn't miss on her hirings. I also think it's impactful. It's impactful that you need to manage them along the way. And I think
All
that
right.
John Robinson was mismanaged along the way.
All right. When you
I think Mike
backpedal,
Vrabel
keep your
probably,
shoulders
now
over your
hindsight,
knees is backpedaling. Shoulders over your knees is backpedaling. So don't trip. If you lean back too much, then you'll trip.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about what's been happening the last few minutes.
You sit there and said that she didn't miss, and I've explained
She has not.
that she has not. She's mismanaged along the way. Okay. You sit there and you categorize her as she don't miss.
She has not missed.
And then you gave her a 6. You get no credit of responsibility.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Let's go ahead and get to the next topic. We'll figure out what this transpires like over the next week or so, as soon as the Titans continue to interview coaching candidates they've requested. They've got 5 this week. I still think I'm a 6 confidence level in Rand and Amy doing it together. I'm a little lower. Same reason why you're a little lower than me at a 4.5. I'm a little lower because if they hire a D coordinator, then we're both going to lose our minds. And we're aligned on that one. That's for sure. All right, let's get to anything else before we get to our next topic.
No, I think that these interviews over the next couple of days, I think you keep your eye on Ben Johnson. I think you got to keep your eye on the offensive-minded coaches that they've got to interview. That, I think, is where the value is. And then I also think that you got to watch the other coaching hires, or at least openings around the league, because where the Titans rank, which we'll talk about later this week, I also think the situation is key. Carolina is a bad situation, right? I think you'd all agree. We'd all agree with that. Where do the Titans rank with that? And how do these candidates, these offensive-minded candidates at least, view that?
All right. So this question, because there were some 4 crazy storyline games in the NFL. What stood out the most in the first 4 NFL playoff games? What stood out the most in the first 4 NFL playoff games? But first, I'm going to tell everybody about our great friends at the Bone and Joint Institute. We all know snow falling, ice is going to be underneath that snow. Be careful. Don't do anything stupid because we don't want you to end up at the Bone and Joint Institute. But falls and injuries happen a lot with this inclement weather, and that's where the Bone and Joint Institute can help you out. If you do have an injury or someone you know has an injury because of all the weather and the slick ice that's going to be happening around our area over the next few days, the Bone and Joint Institute can help you out with those type of injuries. They have experts all in one location with all the resources in Franklin to make sure you can get that injury taken care of the appropriate way, efficiently, to get on with your life, because nobody likes the lingering injuries, and the Bone and Joint Institute can help you out with that. boneandjointtn.org is where to go.
A to Z Sports, we're powered by BetMGM. Download the app today. You got 2 playoff games this afternoon and night. That bonus code is ATOZ Sports. ATOZ Sports for new users, up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. For new users, that bonus code is ATOZ Sports. Download the app today.
All right, so a question here. What stood out the most in the first 4 NFL playoff games? What stood out the most in the first 4 NFL playoff games? There's a lot to pick from as the Texans blow out the Browns, the Chiefs whip up on the Dolphins, and then yesterday on Sunday, you've got the Packers just destroying the life out of the Cowboys, and the Lions over the Rams in a dramatic storyline-filled night for Detroit. So what stood out the most over those 4 games this playoff weekend? Still 2 playoff games today to go. Zach, I'll send you the chat to see what people are saying.
Let's see here. The young quarterbacks right there from Kendall. No close games. I mean, I think last night was a close game. Now, the Lions did what they needed to do, and it was 4th and like 14, so the Rams didn't go for it and eventually punted.
Cam Sutton, hold or PI. One or the other. Cam Sutton for the Lions committed a penalty that should have given the Rams a first down.
And there were some hard hits last night that they kind of let go. I mean, that's playoff football. But Detroit was rocking, that's for sure.
Yes,
Jordan Love and the way that he played. Love, QBR right there from Duran. The Texans right there. CJ Stroud, no wonder they tried to trade up, and there was rumors going around last draft. Packers destroying the Cowboys at home. Finally being a good game. Rams and Lions last night. Packers playing out. We've got CJ Stroud. Dan Campbell is Vrabel, or is what Vrabel wants to be. Now, you got to give
Dan
credit
Campbell's
to
an
the
offensive
Detroit.
mind.
You got to get. He played tight end. He didn't play outside linebacker, granted, but I don't. There's a difference between offensive minded and players coach, and so I don't categorize Dan Campbell of running offenses. I categorize Dan Campbell as being the glue that you need. We will find out, because the Lions may have problems in the future like the Titans have, because their assistants may leave, right?
Both coordinators might be gone.
Dan Campbell's not taking over the offense. He's not the quarterback whisperer. So I think when you say offensive minded, I think there's.
He is the I've talked with our Lions guy Mike Payton, like Dan Campbell and Mike Vrabel. You know how like Kirk Cousins is the NFC Tannehill and Tannehill's the AFC Kirk Cousins. It's just this. It's offensive and defensive Mike Vrabel. Dan Campbell and Vrabel are basically the same guy. Just they play different sides of the ball.
So what was the number one takeaway from you over this weekend?
Well, honestly, the cheesy answer is to go with the scene in Detroit. But I think what has a long-lasting power of what the heck are the Dolphins going to do? The Dolphins and Tua have so many questions. Like, I understand that game was so damn cold that water bottles were freezing as soon as they were removed from the refrigerator because the fridge was keeping the water warmer. But Tua is now 0-5 under 40 degrees. He looked so dreadful in that game. Mike McDaniel was not calling great plays either. The Dolphins have to make a decision this offseason on to pay Tua or not. They had the fifth-year option. They're kind of walking into a Marcus Mariota type situation going into the fifth year, like the Titans were several years ago. Tua stayed healthy this year, but I mean, in order to win a Super Bowl, you either got to have home field advantage in Miami, which they could not do and probably won't be able to do because Tua can't win in December. And in his last 6 games, Tua throws 6 touchdowns to 5 picks. I think that is the biggest long-lasting story, or at least for the offseason, because the Dolphins are this sexy young thing of all these offensive and these beautiful play designs and Tyreek Hill, Waddle, speed, A-Chain, Mostert, all of this. Tua crumbles in December and January. And this ain't flag football.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs to that, right? They played the defending Super Bowl champions. I think that you concentrate on Miami and all the things that you said, but they also played very experienced and the best quarterback in the league still. You can't deny that.
Yeah, but Tua was – they scored 7 points on a Tyreek Hill play. That was it.
No, that was it. And you saw that a couple of times from teams. The Flacco losing as a backup quarterback, that was not surprising. Now, I do think you got to look at the momentum that Houston has, and CJ Stroud and the chat said that. But I think the story of the weekend is the number one offense in the league getting blown out by the youngest team in the league. It's the Cowboys being a disaster at home. They went through so many ups and downs, and the Eagles gifted them home field advantage in which they are dominant, and they got dominated. And that thing wasn't close. And so that impact, you talk about impactful, Mike McCarthy, I believe, should and will be fired this week. So now you have the best job, whether you like the Cowboys or not. The Dallas Cowboys head coaching job is the best coaching job in the league. It's probably in sports. It's the hardest. It's the most eyeballs, but that's the job that is coveted. And so I think what happened yesterday was a shock. And the Packers are, if not the hottest team, they are one of the hottest teams in these playoffs. And so you got to kind of watch out the disruption of what they could do maybe in San Francisco next week and what they did in Dallas. But I think that was the most eye-opening thing of Dallas getting what they really wanted. And maybe there was finally a trajectory of a 90s NFC championship game in San Francisco, Cowboys versus the 49ers. And that just got eaten up by Jordan Love and LaFleur, the old offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. But that was the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, there are 3 teams in the NFC that made me think of 90s football, and it's the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Packers. Like, I still think Packers at Niners is going to look awesome. It's going to, like, starter jackets, get them out, because that is a starter jacket game. So I forget which touchdown it was after. I think it was after the Packers' 3rd touchdown to make it 20-0. They showed Jerry Jones in the suite, and he's just swiveling, looking for somebody to fire. Like, it was just, you could just see in his face, like, this is not what today was supposed to be. And just looking around for something, and had nothing. And it just got worse.
Well, and they're in a different position than the Titans. We talk about, all of the losses that happened that, got to obviously a decision that Amy made. The Cowboys don't have that problem. They're trying to go from good to great. And that, as we know, is more difficult than rebuilding it to just be a playoff team. The Cowboys, they have got to make some moves, and they got guys that you got a decision on a lot of players, and you got a decision on 2 coaches, Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy. And so lots of change coming in Dallas. And Dak is still proven that he's a really good quarterback, but you're only a great quarterback in January and February this time of year.
Yeah. Lim says Ben and Bobby's play calling was chef's kiss. I mean, Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick both had great first halves. Each team, the Texans and the Lions, scoring 20+ points in the first half. Now the Lions could only get a field goal in the second half, and the Texans had, 2 defensive touchdowns in the third quarter, and then the game was over. And so Bobby Slowick got to be more conservative there and just to get out of that game. But I think those 2 guys helped themselves quite a bit. They're on the Titans interview list for this week, and we'll see kind of what how that continues to develop throughout this week. But I mean, the games weren't close, but I think the storylines were still impressive because the Browns get blown out by the Texans. Oh my gosh, CJ Stroud is really here. And then what I just talked about with the Dolphins, what you talked about with the Packers and the Cowboys yesterday, and the Lions. I mean, Zach, what iPhone were we on the last time the Lions won a playoff game, right? It was not even you didn't even have, barely had the actual car phones back in that time.
But they have, the Lions have a damn good team.
Yeah.
And the key is they protect Jared Goff to throw. Jared Goff has talent. He's proven the naysayers, as they say, wrong. And he's proven that he can get the job done. He's been to a Super Bowl. We forget that he went to a Super Bowl.
He's a number 1 overall pick. It's not like he's just this try-hard quarterback out there who's making it work.
There's been a number 1 overall picks that haven't been very good. So
for sure.
There's a lot of pressure that comes with that.
But you don't become a number 1 overall pick void of talent. And by the way, Matt Stafford, that dude is still a freak. Like some of those sidearm throws he's making yesterday, just zipping those in there is just incredible to watch. But I'm excited for Detroit. Man, who knew the Lions and Michigan Wolverines might just try to line this thing up together to have a big winner for the whole state of Michigan?
Would be wild.
Yes, it would. All right, are we ready for the age game?
I'm ready if you were ready.
All right, age game to wrap up this Monday show. But first, I want to tell everybody about Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see our friend Painbone and his team in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Zach, I've got the chat hidden. So now time for the age game. Up to you now. Take it from here.
All right. So this is one that I think you've had some tough ones in the past. You had 2 early, and then we've kind of gotten off, and you've been off, and they've been difficult, right? King Henry the Eighth was a tough one. So
yes,
we're gonna
whenever you bring
up
something from the 1400s.
I think you'll be able to get close, if not get it. You just we've got to figure out exactly how old this particular person is. And this particular person, actually, we've talked about today. And this particular person has been compared to somebody else that we've talked about today. So don't Google, but how old is Dan Campbell? The nice grin right there. That is how old is Dan Campbell? And you only get it right if you get it right. That's the key.
Or fast.
And then obviously how this game works, we go to the chat and we find our champion in the chat. The first person that gets this correct is our champion, and we'll get a special prize today that we don't usually do. This is, it's snowing outside. I thought that we'd really be creative with today's prize for the champion of the chat.
I'm going to have to go with 48.
48. Is that your final answer?
It is my final answer.
48. All right. Well, let's find out if you are a 3-time champion or if you have missed.
Continue my losing streak.
Steven says 43 as our first guess. That is a little too young. That is incorrect. John comes in and agrees with Austin. And as our second guess, you both are wrong. You both are very, very close, but you're both are wrong. Lou Man says 57. Costco's 81. Not even close. Christopher, 44. Still too young. Amanda, a little too old with 51. So is Justin, 59. That is old. 48 from Ashley. And we have our champion. And I think that this may be a 2-time champion. I'd have to correct me if I'm wrong. But Jay, 47. You were one off. Dan Campbell is 47 years old.
I don't know why. I pick even numbers so much more often than odd numbers. And I thought about that after I said it, 48. I was like, why do I always default to the even number?
And right after Jay, Kirk got it and Roger got it. Then the 47 Titans, Kyle got it. The 47 started to roll in. Hill got it. Sean Gill got it. Shrike got it. So, but that first one, Jay, say hey to Jay, our champion, who gets 40% off all merch on our store right there. Jay, we thank you for participating and being the champion this week. Shop.azsportsnashville.com. 40% more merch. You can get yours today. You got pullovers, you've got shirts, you've got hats. Get them while they're hot. Get them off the rack. 40% off for our champion Jay at shop.azsportsnashville.com.
All right.
Dan Campbell, 47 years old.
47. Zach, are you going to be happy tonight? Or are you going to be going into off-season mode tonight?
These are one of the playoff games that I don't expect to win. So that makes it even sweeter when the cannons are firing at the final buzzer. I think that the Eagles are in a little bit of disarray. You catch them at the absolute perfect time, at home, in prime time. No A.J. Brown. You can really put a stake in the Eagles and make them fire their coach that maybe they do, maybe they don't want to fire. Who knows? There's a big opportunity. But it's all about Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, over this course of the year, he either plays great, not good, but great, or dreadful. In the last couple of weeks, the Bucs have been dreadful. So, I don't know. I'm happy to watch. I can't wait. Fire them cannons.
Well, let's see if it happens. 2 games today on this Super Wild Card Monday. Happy MLK Day again as well. So if you're out there in the snow, I got my sled on Friday. They say be prepared, prepared I am for this weather. So going to have some fun throughout the day, but hope everybody does stay safe because we want you guys here to watch us throughout the rest of the week and the rest of the off season. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the like button as well. Like the show before you go. Buck Rising live tonight for A to Z Sports Primetime. Buck has a report out there about Mike Vrabel's potential next stop and how that lined up with with an NFC playoff game yesterday. So go check that out, A to Z Sports.com. And we'll see you guys back tomorrow on a Tuesday morning. Appreciate it as always.